Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/prorevenge, where people tell us their best stories and when they got revenge on someone or something they didn't like. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax and enjoy some pro-revenge stories.
Hot-headed neighbor. Many of the stories on here are about hot-headed neighbors, and mine is no different. A family moved in next door to us about a year ago and kept to themselves for the most part. The husband was a strange one and was very peculiar about his lawn. He blew it off every morning and watered it religiously. Whenever any kid would set foot on it, he would come out to warn them off. I didn't care and told my kids to make sure to not go on his lawn. Then he started an annoying habit of putting his trash right on the corner of my lawn, about a foot over the line. I asked him numerous times not to do that, and he smugly ignored my requests. I thought he was a douche canoe, but I wasn't going to cause a big stink about it until one day he pushed it too far. He had been working some minor home renovations for a couple of weeks. One morning, I came out to find a pile of construction trash sitting on the infamous corner. It included some lumber with nails sticking out of it, glass panels from old screen doors, and other items. The next day, I get a notice from our homeowners association telling me that I would be fined if I didn't move it. So, I did just that. I dragged the mountain of trash back across onto his property and called the management company to tell them that it wasn't my trash. The next day, I came out to find the trash had been moved back onto my lawn. So, I drug it back to his lawn and left a note on it, asking him nicely not to move it back to my property. That afternoon, I see him angrily dragging it back to my lawn and I confront him. He starts to get smart, telling me that it was only 6 inches on my lawn. It was completely on my lawn, and it shouldn't be a big deal, and that the city was going to pick it up in 2 days. I told him that the glass and nails were a liability, and that I didn't want it on my lawn. He tries to belittle me, and then proceeds to tell me that my lawn service is actually cutting part of his lawn, and tries to take that angle. I inform him that his fence and his perceived property line, front yard, is actually 2 feet on my property, and that the property he is referring to is not his. I explained that I would be glad to hire a surveyor to confirm the property lines, and he could adjust his fence accordingly. After he leaves, I move the trash back to the middle of his drive. He comes back out, and I tell him that if he moves it back, I was going to call the police for trespassing. This is where his hot temper kicks in, and he comes and shoves me, pushing me down onto the street, and threatens to kick my butt if I come back on his property with the trash. By this point, I had enough and called the police. They show up and talk to me. Then, they go talk to him, but he denies pushing me. My wife intervenes and reminds me that we have footage on our Ring camera. The police review the footage and promptly arrest him. His wife comes over to plead with us to drop the charges, but we tell her that we won't. They charge him with battery and disorderly conduct. He also happens to be a prominent figure in the local school system. My wife posted the video on social media and it went viral among the local parenting groups. The senior administrator for the school system called me to ask about the incident, so I told him my side of the story. He hasn't been back to work since the incident, almost 2 months. His job was just posted, so I'm assuming they let him go or he quit. I also hired a surveyor to come stake out my property lines. It turns out his fence, backyard, that he built without asking me is over 3 feet on my land. I had my attorney send him a formal request to relocate his fence, which will require him to build a new 60-foot section of fence since I won't let him connect it to mine. Moral of the story? Act like a douche canoe and lose your job, your fence that you thought you had, and lose some money for legal fees. That guy's got some nerve moving the trash over whilst being confronted. Ended mother-in-law's career after she ruined our lives. Context. I've posted a bit about my fiance's adoptive mother, Susan, in the last couple weeks, mostly on Just No Mill, where I might cross-post to this later. But for anyone unfamiliar with Susan, she was my lecturer when I was at university. Susan hated that I was dating her adopted son, biological nephew, since she found out about us. When we first told her we were dating, she tried to harm me via allergy, another story for another day. And after she found out that I was pregnant, she stalked us, impersonated me, and broke into our flat. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. She made our lives hell, to the extent where we no longer felt safe in our own home, and my fiancé and I had to move across the country to escape her. We've been living in our new place for a little under a week. The baby is due in a couple of months, and everything is mostly ready. We've deactivated our social media, created new emails, and changed our numbers. Only a few friends and relatives from the town she lives in, which we left, have our new numbers. We had to leave our entire lives and everyone we knew and loved behind while I was 7 months pregnant because we couldn't trust her around our baby. Revenge. On Monday, an email was sent from the dean to Susan's graduating students, saying Susan was being considered for a promotion, from lecturer to head of department, and they wanted to hear from her students first. The aim of this was to receive glowing recommendations to give to the board. This was not the result. As I had changed my email, I hadn't seen this. One of my friends who had my new number and was on the course with me did see the email, and on Tuesday, he gave my new number to the dean, saying that he would only give her the number in person, on paper, and only if she agreed to ring when she was alone, and to throw out the paper and erase it from the logs after. If she was calling from a university phone, then the number would go on the call logs that were accessible by all the members of staff. But he assured her that this was something she'd want to hear before promoting Susan. So I got this call from the dean on Tuesday. She told me what was going on. My friend hadn't had time to get in touch before she rang, and she asked me why my friend thought I should speak to her. I told her everything. I started 2 years ago when I met Susan's son, the man who would become my fiancé and the father of my child. I told her about Susan poisoning me via allergy after finding out about me and her son, and the EpiPen incident. I told her about the outside of class harassment I received post-pregnancy announcement, impersonating me, crashing GP appointments, breaking in, etc. I told her about the in-class harassment, telling me to break up with my fiancé, stopping lectures until I left, throwing out my food and drink, trying to reschedule exams, and more. I told her about the last time I saw Susan in person, when she tried to hit me while I was 7 months pregnant with her grandchild. I told her about having to move away. I was careful not to give a location or distance, and filing a restraining order to escape Susan. I thought the university were made aware of the RO, but apparently not. Fiancé then arrived home from work, and when I told him what was happening, he was all too eager to chime in with stuff I forgot, copying keys, punching the landlord, cancelling orders, and going through our things. He also told the dean about the abuse he got from her growing up. We also gave the dean the names of people willing to support our story, as well as some dates, times, and locations of on-campus incidents. I'd made a note of a few of them, so she could pull CCTV from the campus security recordings. Fiance also told her the story of one of his cousins, Susan's biological kid, who got close with a guy on Susan's course, but the guy was told to break up with her by Susan with a thinly veiled threat against his academic career. We also told the dean about Susan telling me to break up with my fiance and vice versa, so she could better maintain professionalism. The dean was horrified. She had me and my fiance record a video where we said everything all over again, from the top. We made sure the video had nothing to identify location, and we were assured Susan would never see it. We also sent her all the proof we had alongside it. This was all forwarded to the board on Wednesday and Thursday. She asked my friend for the numbers again and just called me for the second time, telling me that the board unanimously agreed this was grounds for Susan's dismissal. They said that while the outside of uni events weren't really their business, they go towards her character and the fact that as department head, she would represent the department, whether she was on the clock or not. They said even without this, the events that happened inside of uni alone, stopping lectures, telling me to dump my fiance, telling the other guy to leave her daughter alone, throwing out my stuff, seeking special treatment on grounds of nepotism, were all abuses of power and enough to justify Susan's dismissal. They asked me why I hadn't filed charges, and I said all I'd gain from filing charges is Susan staying away from me, and the restraining order and moving away has the same effect. Plus, as it's exam season, my tutor work is really taking off, and I don't have the time to go through a whole court case. And I'll have even less time once the baby arrives. The baby is due in about 8 weeks, and Susan has already caused me enough stress. Tomorrow, in the meeting where Susan is fully expecting to be told she got her promotion, the dean is now going to give her a week to hand in her resignation. If she refuses, she will be fired. If she does not hand in her resignation, she will be fired. She will not be getting a reference. The only reason she is being given the option to resign is that she has worked at this university for nearly a decade. But if she so much as raises her voice in the meeting tomorrow, she will be fired. Security will be present for the meeting in case she tries anything. Meanwhile, the friends we left behind aren't hesitating to tell anyone who will listen all about what Susan did during the course of mine and my fiance's relationship. There's not a single soul left in that town who trusts her or will take her side if she tries to fight back. Not even her husband, who told us that now all their kids are over 18, he will be initiating divorce proceedings. I don't feel even a little bit bad. I know there's a chance I went too far, but I didn't lie or embellish anything. I just gave the dean the facts as they are. Everything is 100% true, and while it was me who told the dean, I see this as Susan's actions having consequences. Susan has more than enough money to pay for herself for the foreseeable future. She owns her home. Her husband's name is not on the deed, and she bought it before they got married. So she will get the house in the divorce, as it's not technically a shared asset, or one acquired during their marriage. She will have a roof over her head and money in her bank account. And if she wanted to, she could get another job, just probably not one as a lecturer. That was crazy, wow. I'm gonna read some FAQs that they actually put at the bottom, so if you're interested in that, then yeah, I'll read them now. What is Susan and fiance's relationship exactly? Biologically, they're aunt and nephew. Fiance's parents were in and out of his life a lot growing up, and when they were out of his life, they'd leave him at Susan's place. And when he was 14, they left for good, at which point Susan said she'd adopt him. Fiance has never seen proof of this, but she refers to herself as his mother, and to him as her son. What is the EpiPen and poisoning accident? I'm severely allergic to peppercorn, as in salt and pepper, and shortly after Susan found out we were dating and asked us to break up, she then invited us to dinner to apologize. I offered to cook as I had my pepper allergy to work around, and she insisted on cooking. Fiance also reminded her of the pepper allergy, as did his uncle/her husband. She cooked pepper into my crusted turkey. Susan insisted it was a palate issue and I needed to stop being fussy. I didn't eat it, but due to my proximity to a giant lump of cracked and cooked pepper, combined with the severity of my allergy, I was sat at the table with the turkey right in front of me. I wound up inhaling enough that I began to violently cough and felt lightheaded. Fiance went to get me water while I went for my EpiPen. I couldn't open it and Susan took it off me. I pointed to where she could administer it, and instead of doing that, she asked me if I was sure about not breaking up with Fiance. Uncle arrived, saw what was happening, called Fiance into the room, and between them they got my EpiPen, administered it, and drove me to the A&E. To this day, Susan insists that no one is allergic to pepper. I'm just fussy. And even though I should have pressed charges at the time, not only was she still my lecturer, but law enforcement says that being stupid isn't a crime. What is going on with the faculty? At my university, there are visiting, part-time lecturers, referred to as junior lecturers. Then there's full-time lecturers, who are referred to as senior lecturers. Then there's the head of department. This is not a rotating position. Each position comes with a pay bump, and the head of department runs the compulsory module each year. The head of department, once appointed, is the head of the department until they resign, are fired, or retire. Why was the dean so transparent? From what the dean told us, it's a health and safety issue, as well as a legal one. Susan has proved to us that she's a threat to our safety and well-being. We proved that to the dean with testimony and evidence. And now, if the dean gets rid of Susan, Susan could go after us. The dean needs to keep us in the loop in case this happens, so the uni isn't liable in case Susan comes after us. How was this all done so quickly? I think they wanted to sort it quickly and quietly. They needed to announce the new head of department soon, and they had a few options, but Susan was the front runner. The email I didn't see sounds like it extended to all candidates. So if former students had any thoughts on the other two options, they were free to email about them too. But when my friend saw that Susan was an option, he took matters into his own hands as he knew about everything she'd done. I will admit to guessing and filling in the blanks here, and with the other uni stuff, but the dean didn't explain everything to us, so a lot of stuff me and Fiance are trying to fill in the gaps between us. Why no police? The same reasons we listed above. Between the baby, the move, and the new job, we had no free time. We think that the restraining order and moving will be enough to keep her away. But if she comes near us again, we've agreed to contact the police and see through the court case. But with all the stuff going on, we don't have time. We were also told when we were first asked about the court that if she fought us, her lawyer would have the rights to cross-examine us, and for that to happen, we would need to be in the courtroom. Whether this happens before or after the baby is born, we don't want to even be in the same town as her right now, let alone in the same courtroom. Regardless of security, we wouldn't feel safe. Won't Susan blame you for all this? She'd blame us for this even if we had nothing to do with it. We're preparing as if she's going to knock on our front door any second and ask where we went. And because of this, we have no less than 4 separate backup plans in case something does happen. When I said she had money to support herself, she does, but she doesn't have PI money or money to travel all over the place searching for us. Any therapy? Fiance is in therapy because of her right now. Tried to get her in therapy, but she didn't want to. She went for one session with my fiance as a mother-son thing and never again. What's the security situation at your new place? We have and are in the process of installing one of those doorbells with video feed and CCTV. We replaced the short screws in the door with longer ones. Our place has a high metal fence with a locked metal gate on the front, and we're looking into it if it's possible to fit a keypad or something similar, so we'd have a code on it. Our new hospital has had some issues with the maternity ward in the last couple years, so they upped security in a big way. And now, all visitors have to wear passes and sign in with photo ID. And they have a system where once the person signing in puts in their name, they type it into a computer, and the computer will alert them if the person is banned, like Susan is. And in that case, she will not get her visitor pass and therefore not be able to access the ward. Can't she track you via social media? We've erased everything from our social media, deactivated our accounts, never mentioned anything about the new place we've moved to online or IRL. Fiance works in IT and he's in the process of erasing all of our accounts.
Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.